Hello and welcome to TheWriter's Ask Me Anything. Now, the reason I'm doing this is because I've been on hiatus for a while, and I wanted to kind of reconnect with my subscriber base, my community. I've noticed that I've kind of been hovering around, 15,200, and we haven't budged in like 5 months. So, I've come back, I'm doing stuff, I'm answering comments, I'm trying to do more of the Let's Talk Tabletop, and D&D Stories is still going, etc., etc. But I wanted to do an Ask Me Anything, and I've got, like I said, 15,000 watchers, and I always kept thinking, gosh, I have such a small channel, why would I do that? I have such a small channel, why would I do that? And then one day I promised myself, I'll do an Ask Me Anything if I hit 10,000 subscribers. And then I forgot all about it. So here we are at 15 and some change, and coming back from a hiatus. So why not? I put out a call for questions like a week ago, and I reminded you guys on Facebook and a couple other things. So I got like 15 questions, something like that. And let's get started. So for those that don't know, if you've been living under a rock, and Ask Me Anything is exactly what it sounds like. You can ask the host anything. It's a great way to get in touch with your fans, with your watchers, etc., etc., because they can ask you anything they want. I did have a few repeats, so I'll just say like a bunch of people asked this. A bunch of people asked, do you have Pathfinder 2E, and will you review it or do a video on it? Yes, Pathfinder 2nd edition came out like 4 days ago, and I have not looked at it because anywhere I go, in like a bookstore, in a Barnes & Nobles or a hobby shop or whatever, it'll say Pathfinder 2nd edition, and then under it it says playtest. I have not yet seen physical copies of those books out in the wild. I don't like to order things online just because I don't trust the internet with my credit card information. That, and unfortunately I just got slapped with a $500 car repair bill. So I can't really justify buying any $50 game books right now because yeah, there are about 40,000 miles on my car, but we took it on a trip to the cabin, because everybody in Minnesota has a cabin, apparently, for a nice long weekend, just me and my wife, and we came back, and on our way back, during this 4-hour drive, we blew out a tire, and we put the replacement on, and we found out that the insides of all my tires were shaved bald. So 40,000 miles, and then I realized, oh wait, those are the original tires. I should probably replace those. And then as soon as we got back to town, the oil change light went on, and then the air filter light went on, and then it started complaining that the tires were low, and I was like, Jesus Christ, I just gotta take this in. And yeah, it ended up being like $450 and some change, plus labor, so it sucked. So I can't justify buying Pathfinder 2E. So if you really want me to review it, be sure to subscribe to my Patreon. I'm kidding. I do get about $50 a month with Patreon. Maybe I'll go and get the 2nd edition core book this month. I don't know. That's actually a good idea. I might do that. That, and if I get a check, an AdSense check from YouTube this month, it's usually like $100 or better. They'll send you a check. That's $150. That's surely enough for the core books. I don't know. Everywhere I look on like Twitter and on Reddit and stuff are saying that the new core rulebook is like over 600 pages long. And Paizo, did you not fucking learn the first time? My computer's beeping. Shut up, computer. Shut up. Did you guys not learn the first time that a core book that thick is not a good idea? Like, out of all of my big long line of D&D books and Pathfinder books and 3rd edition books, the Pathfinder core book here is the only gaming book I have with a damaged spine because it is so thick. I think it's like almost 600 pages itself. This should have been 2 books. What is it? It's, yeah, 575 pages. And this second edition book is going to be even bigger? Jesus Christ, man. Just make a DMG and a player's handbook like everybody else. But no, apparently it's going to be a monster core book. And I'll be honest with you guys, I have not been following the news. I did not participate in the beta. I didn't look at any of the playtesting stuff. And like I said, whenever I saw stuff in the bookstore, it would say, Pathfinder 2nd edition playtest. And I was like, no, that's going to change, or that's going to get revised, or something fundamental is going to change. Because you remember during, I don't remember if it was 4th or 5th edition, they were testing clerics and stuff. They sent out like a bunch of character sheets and like a little module for people to try and say, tell us what you think of the classes. And then they were like, cleric, turn undead. And they're at level 1 and they're like, I don't have turn undead. And they're like, why do we have a cleric then? Here, play this fighter instead. So I knew stuff was going to change, so I didn't look at it at all. But I am a very big fan of Paizo products, so I will get a hold of it as soon as humanly possible and read about it and talk to you guys. So right now I know nothing, but I do have faith in the company. So back to the original question, do I have Pathfinder 2nd edition? No, I do not, but I probably will very soon. And will you do a review or a video on it? Yes, of course. I'm a big Pathfinder fanboy, so I will of course talk about it. Next one. What prompted the TheWriter channel? Gosh. This is digging into videos that don't exist anymore. But I used to have a V for Vendetta mask, and I would review books because that's how cool I was back in the day. I would read Dragonlance books. I would read fantasy style books and then talk about them in detail, basically just summarizing them. Much like D&D stories summarizes campaigns, I would summarize books and give my opinions on them. And they would get no views whatsoever, but I liked to sit in front of a camera and talk. But I didn't have any talents, I didn't have any animation, I didn't have any theme song, I didn't have anything. And I didn't really have a niche. I just wanted to sit and talk and have people leave comments and stuff like that. It's kind of narcissistic, I guess, to talk with people who enjoyed the same things I did. And eventually, out of that came D&D stories, because I was in college when D&D stories originally started, and all the original episodes are gone now. I've redone them into this bigger, nicer show now that has its own theme song and its own logo and its own music and its own everything. So I've actually done D&D stories twice now. And printer, what are you doing? All the technology in my office is rebelling. Ugh. But I guess, if I'm honest, I was kind of allured by the idea of YouTube fame, and that's not a reason to start a channel. It's really not. But eventually I started meeting other YouTubers that enjoyed D&D. I started doing crossovers or collab videos with people like Blueberryan, and more recently with the Adventure Game Geek, with Blue House OK. I don't think he's around anymore. He was a nice guy. Well, I was talking about Dragonlance, and meeting other people that were in the hobby but weren't there at college just kind of spurred it on. And before I knew it, I was 125 episodes in, and the channel had grown exponentially. So what prompted the channel? I guess a thirst for attention. if I'm being honest with myself. And eventually I started making a little bit of AdSense. I remember before they put that $100 threshold, you make $100 or you don't get a check and it rolls over. Before that rule was implemented, I got my first check from YouTube was $4.27. And I went to a hobby store and I bought a pack of Magic the Gathering cards, and I thought I was hot shit. But yeah, I wanted to tell stories. I wanted attention. I wanted people to listen to me. It's the truth. I know it's not the most wonderful reason, but it's the truth. I wanted to be heard as a bard, I guess. What were some of the challenges of running the channel? Getting good equipment. Because, when you're a college student, you buy 10 packs of Rayman and hope you make it to the end of the week. I did my older videos with a ball cam. I did stuff with like a monitor camera on my old laptop. And again, those videos are gone. They've been remade with my nice camera and stuff like that. So the challenges were equipment based. And even now, I don't understand how lighting works or how sound works or anything like that. I don't have an editor anymore. Barry has since flown the coop, as it is. And I guess some of the challenges are making sure that you put out content on a consistent basis, because the lifespan of a YouTube video is about 4 days when it comes to like the internet's attention span. So being consistent in your uploads is kind of a big challenge. What would you do differently if you could go back and start over? Well, like I said, if I've done D&D stories twice now, so I have gone back and started over. So what I did was, being more comfortable in front of a camera, I got better lighting, I got a better camera, I got original artwork, original music, I got everything you could possibly get. A logo. My lovely wife designed the D&D stories, little chibi people that stand around the logo, and one of my fans designed the lettering. I've since forgotten his name, and that makes me a terrible person. But I have gone back and started over, and D&D stories, as you know it, is a result of that, because I deleted all the originals, because I was an awkward nerd that was not used to sitting in front of a camera, and now I am. So, what challenges do you still need to overcome, technically or content-wise? Technically, I still need to learn more about lighting and learn more about like acoustics and stuff, because the room I'm sitting in, there's foam on this wall, and the back wall is just solid, and the side wall is just solid, the roof is solid, and I have a carpet. So the sound quality in this room is not that of a sound booth. So, and again, stuff like that costs money, which I don't have. So I got to do my best with my charisma and hope people stay around. How did you meet Rob? The guy that's standing in for D&D stories right now, Rob Coletta. How did I meet Rob? I believe I met him through Tabletop Terrors. Tim Carney and James Carney. I went looking for YouTube buddies for collaborations, because if similar channels do crossovers, the viewers just eat that up, and both channels usually walk away with a whole bunch more subscribers, because people love crossover events. They eat that shit up. You wouldn't believe it. So I went looking for D&D YouTuber buddies, and the Tabletop Terrors, who are one half of Absolute Tabletop, the publishing company, I think I met Rob through them. Like, I think that circle of people, I was the new guy on the block for a while. I can't rightly remember exactly. He's just always kind of been there. He's a good guy. And you can check out Rob's channel too. It's called Performance Check. He does a lot of Vampire the Masquerade stuff. He's standing in for D&D right now. And he's a Shakespearean actor. He's very charismatic, very dramatic. So he's got a lot of stuff going on in his channel too. Tell us about your Shield Maiden journey. You want to? Oh, okay, yeah. What prompted that character? Okay, so it's kind of silly, but it does owe some explanation, because it did kind of come out of nowhere. My channel is quite old, and this superhero stuff just kind of popped up because it's TheWriter. So I do writing whether it's on the channel or not, but I do the occasional audiobook. Like some of you that have been around long enough remember Cyranox the Feared, which was basically an audiobook, Swords and Sorcery, that I published here on the channel. And then I tried my hand at creepypastas with that story, Hands and Hips, which pretty much everybody hated because I'm not good at writing horror. But that was more of an experiment, I guess. And then I did fan fiction for a while, but you can't really make money or get a lot of views doing that. And I just kind of genre hopped for a while. And with this Marvel Cinematic Universe, this renaissance of superhero stuff that's going on right now, especially now that Infinity War and Endgame are out and everybody's seen it, and we've had the orgasm, so we're all kind of calming down a little bit. I was like, I wonder if I could write something superhero based. And I go, gosh, it's really hard to come up with like an original superhero. And so what I did as a D&D enthusiast, I got some dice out, and I was like, okay, what kind of superhero? Physical, magic, human plus, whatever, etc. Throw the dice. Okay, boy or girl, throw the dice. White, black, Asian, roll the dice. I literally did this, and I'm not ashamed. And I eventually came out with what eventually became Wanda Summers, the Shield Maiden. But that came from, I think we were in the car on the way to the Mall of America, because we live within driving distance of the Mall of America here in Minnesota. And we were talking about what an interesting thing the Marvel Cinematic Universe is, and how there was nothing like it before, like no movie series, no nothing, that every generation kind of has its own magnum opus in movies, because like there was Star Wars, there was Indiana Jones, Harry Potter was a big deal for a while, and then if you go further back, Nightmare on Elm Street, there were 7 movies, Jason kept going until they were beating that dead horse, there's 5 or 6 Chucky movies, Saw was a huge idea for a long time, and these Marvel movies are so amazing, and now the special effects technology has basically caught up with the imagination, which is no small feat. And I go, gosh, what's the stupidest and most outrageous like superhero comic name I could possibly come up with? And after a while, I was like, The Adventures of Laser Wolf and Gel Girl. And I was like, that sounds like the stupidest comic I've ever heard of. Laser Wolf and Gel Girl. And I was like, okay, maybe not that. But from that came the idea of Shield Maiden, like a lady who you could aspire to be like, who has her own business, who has a boyfriend, who's got housemates, who drives a beat-up old van, but who, during the nights, is busting drug deals and punching dragon guys in the face and stuff like that. And Laser Wolf and Gel Girl got added into that story as like background characters, because if that was what we were focusing on, it would have gotten really weird and out of hand really fast. So Shield Maiden acts as a proxy, something that's a hero that's more down to earth, with outrageous superheroes, more powerful superheroes in the background, doing all the big stuff while she does the little stuff and works her way up. So the philosophy behind Shield Maiden is starting out as like a kind of low-end superhero who's slowly getting stronger over time, maybe even to the point of surpassing the other superheroes around her. But, you know, she can't fly, she doesn't have laser vision, she's not absurdly strong, but she's probably several times stronger than most. And then I realized, oh wait, she's just Captain America. You know, everything special about her came out of a bottle. Shit. And she hangs out with a giant robot man. Damn it. I saw that, like, after I had written issue number 4 or issue number 5, I was like, shit, this is just Captain America and Iron Man, but they're just ladies. Fuck. But oh well, I'm having fun with it. So what prompted the Shield Maiden as a character was me trying to think up the stupidest comic book name ever. The Adventures of Laser Wolf and Gel Girl. And they became background characters, and Wanda Summers, the Shield Maiden, became the main character to kind of be a proxy for the audience. Let's see, what else? If you could go back in time and give yourself any advice before you DM'd for the first time, what would that advice be? Probably not to DM for anybody under the age of 14. Because the first time I DM'd for somebody who wasn't me, because I DM'd for myself while I was learning 3.5 out of a little skinny box that you could buy at Walmart. The first time I DM'd was actually with my next door neighbors who were like 10 or 12, and they didn't understand and they didn't like grasp the math very well. So I would just tell myself not to bother. You know, I tried to share this new hobby with them, but they were too young to really appreciate it. Yeah, it sounds bad because I know there's really young D&D players out there. I know there's a lot of parents who love to pull their kids into the hobby, or the kids see the grown-ups playing and they want to join, so they let them join, or they have like kiddie versions of D&D out there. I probably would have told myself not to bother until I got to like high school or college, because you kind of had to know somebody back in the day to like get into a group or something, and what is your all-time favorite session that you DM'd for and your favorite session playing in? Oh gosh, I don't know. Both of those are really hard questions. I really liked the Haunted Hotel game because that was when I actually sat down. I got like one of those little plastic journals from Barnes & Nobles, and I freaking wrote like 30, 40, 50 pages of riddles and notes and love poems and diaries and mathematical equations and stuff, and I bound it all up and I put it in twine, and then when they came in the door of the hotel, I had it laying on the front desk, so when their characters picked it up, I just pulled it out and I handed it to them, and that was like their guide, their hint book for the rest of the campaign, for the rest of the game, was this physical copy of this book. And I remember my friend Daniel's face because he was playing a private investigator, and he undoes the little claps. He's probably thinking there's going to be like 2 pages, and he starts flipping pages, and his smile kind of falls away as he's seeing like pictures, rubbings, mathematical equations, maps, all these notes, you know, love letters, poems, pictures of creatures that are no doubt haunting the hotel that this guy was trying to combat, and he wrote about them. And he's like, oh, there's a lot in here. And the table kind of goes quiet, and they all look at Daniel, because upsetting Daniel, who is by far the smartest person at the table, is very hard to do. And just like, he kind of went pale when he started past like page 35, and he says, there's still more. Oh God, oh God. That was probably the most complex like prop I ever made, because it served as a guide to the hotel, to the monsters in it, to combination locks, to where the lock boxes were hidden, to backup keys for certain places, you know, the revenue that the hotel was getting, all kinds of stuff was bound up in this journal, and I loved just watching them paw through that book over and over and over. And that thing took fucking hours to make, don't get me wrong, but it made for a very memorable game. I think that was probably my favorite DMing session, was the haunted hotel, because I had made that journal and given it to them. I would never do that again because that took freaking forever to make, but it made for a very interesting game. And as far as my favorite session playing, I don't know, because I've got so many good memories. Just you've seen most of D&D stories, and I'm usually the one behind the curtain, but I don't know. I had a lot of fun doing Shadow of the Northern Plains. I'm Parlesia, bah! I'm Parlesia, bah! But that campaign sucked, so I don't know if that was like my favorite time. My favorite session. I don't really have one. There's so many good times, so many good sessions, so many different like party dynamics and like you had to be there jokes that go, that it's hard to pick just one. Any babies yet? No. When my wife and I got married, we kind of had that conversation, like after the honeymoon, after we've gotten home, before we were going back to work. I wanted to kind of sit and have the baby talk with my wife Bree, and we kind of got to this conclusion to where both of us were okay with having children if the other was like gung-ho to have kids. Like she said, if you want a baby, I'll give you a baby. And that was kind of that conversation. I said, if you want to have kids, we can have kids, absolutely. But to have children, like ethically speaking, both of you need to be like 100% for it. And kids can happen on accident, and they do. But we've always been very careful about that, and we kind of reached the conclusion that we have a lot of kids in our lives right now because my wife is the rough equivalent of an art teacher or an art counselor. So she looks after like 120 kids every day. And, we have two nieces that are still learning to like talk properly. They're very young, very small. And I have not really had a lot of exposure to small children through my life, so I'm kind of like watching them to figure out kids. Like you'll notice in a lot of my stories I don't write children, and when I do, they sound way younger than they actually are, because I have no idea how children act. I have no idea how children talk, because there are none around me. So, and on top of that, on a more personal note, I have lots and lots and lots of daddy issues because my father was not a nice man. He did not treat people around him very well, and he killed himself in 2012? Yeah. This is a bad bar to set, but I know because it was 2012 and some of the life insurance was used to buy a brand new car so I can move up here and be with Bree. Or some of the money from his assets, not his life insurance. He did not hold a steady job. He brought another woman into our household, so my stepmother was not a very happy lady. He divorced my mom when I was 3 years old to move from Virginia to Kentucky, and spent a lot of time moving from house to house, to the point where I had to beg him to stay in the same house for 4 years so that I could go to one high school, because I had gone to 3 elementary schools, 2 middle schools, and I wanted to only go to one high school, and that sounds really pathetic. So to put that on a more personal note, I don't know what a really, really good, really supportive father is like. I don't know. He had celiac disease, So he had very bad health. He was lactose intolerant. He could get very sick very easily. He was always at home. He could not hold a job. I don't think I would make a very good dad because I don't know what a very good dad is. So, yeah, awkward. Next question. What was the very first D&D campaign you ever GM'd? What was it about? Yes, going back to my players who were way too young, 10 or 12 years old, I made basically a one dungeon campaign because I wanted them to kind of experience what a D&D dungeon crawl was. And this was before I had any of my writing experience, before I was really into like Lord of the Rings. I was into Ninja Turtles and Power Rangers and and Are You Afraid of the Dark and all that good stuff. And I was like, gosh, if I built my own dungeon, I could show off how cool this game is. And they only ever played the one session, but it was basically like a Legend of Zelda dungeon, but without any exploration. It was just a straight line. You would solve the puzzle or the problem in one room, and then the door would open. You would go to the next room. The first room gave them a scepter with lots of gem-shaped holes in it, and they took it to the next room, and they solved the puzzle that was there, and it gave them a ruby. So they stuck the ruby in the scepter, and the door opened. They went into the next room, they fought the monster, and the monster dropped a sapphire, and they stuck the sapphire in the scepter, and they wandered on to the next room, and on and on and on, maybe 7 or 8 of these. And at the very end, I remember the stupid fucking poem I wrote. There was a big round room with a well in the middle, and there was a tablet sitting next to it as tall as a man that said, if you give up the greatest treasure and the last of darkness falls, then you will find the room alight and treasure spread to all. And that was the dumbass poem that I wrote. What it was meant to be was that you would throw the scepter into the well and then put your torches out. So if you give up the greatest treasure, the gem-encrusted scepter, throw it in the well, and the last of darkness falls, put your torches out, so you're standing in the dark, then you will find the room alight. So a big light came out of the well, and treasure spread to all. In which case, sections of the wall would open, these like secret doors, secret passageways, and treasure chests would kind of like out where you could see them, and they could open the chest. Oh, it's full of gold. Open the next chest. Oh, it's full of magic weapons. Open the other chest. Oh, it's got silver bars in it. And that was meant to be the end. They did not understand the poem, and they didn't know what to do. And they are sitting there for like 20 minutes, which to a 10 or 12-year-old is an eternity, not understanding what to do, until their dad walks by and is like, sounds like you should give something up to the well. And they go, oh, we throw the scepter in. It's like, yes, there you go. And so they their super Christian mom was not sure about D&D at the time. She did not go more than 10 feet from that table. She was pretending to do dishes and pretending to dust the top of the fridge. She was waiting for the demons to start coming out. I don't know. That was the first and probably one of the only times I actually ran into somebody who thought D&D was evil, but she was waiting for a reason. So I bet there was like a talk between their mom and dad there. So she was waiting for a reason to shut me down, but she didn't get one. So she kind of hovered. It was weird. So that was the first campaign I ever GM'd, was like a 9-room dungeon, Legend of Zelda, bad poem bullshit. I should probably do a D&D story about that if I could recall at least some of the rooms. I should probably do a D&D story about that. What role-playing game interests you the most besides D&D? Now, I assume you mean tabletop role-playing games. because that's what this channel is. And if so, probably Call of Cthulhu. I've only played like a couple of sessions of that with Puffin Forrest, of all people, as the DM. This was before he exploded in popularity, and I'm still so fucking jelly of him for going from 6,000 subscribers to 600,000 in like 6 weeks. Because that one girl, I forget who, posted a little clip of his animations, and she has like 1 million subscribers, so he went from 6,000. Anyway, he DM'd Call of Cthulhu for us, and he did a very, very good job. And I am not confident in my knowledge of like, I don't have any of the Call of Cthulhu books. I've got some digital copies, but I need to sit and read them. I would never entertain the idea of running a Call of Cthulhu game without like sitting and reading the book, really. That's what really interests me the most. I don't have a lot of interest in like Vampire the Masquerade because there's like a lot of politics and stuff that go on there. I'm more the stab and grab kind of thing going on, and or the like straight scary story kind of stuff. I'm really not into the political scene of all the vampire lords and all the vampire factions. Or if you just mean role-playing games in general, what interests me the most is, I don't know, because there's a lot of categories to that. My favorite role-playing game of all time is Skies of Arcadia, but that's from the freaking Dreamcast era, and I should honestly do like a retrospective or something about that, because that game is a freaking gem, and it needs to have more people playing it, even though it got re-released on the GameCube, and that's how I played it, because they added like voice acting and extra quests and cool stuff like that. It was called Skies of Arcadia Legends, and that game was an experience. What role-playing game interests you the most? There's also the Persona series, because that deals with so much heavy stuff. Like, I was really into Persona 4 when I was in college, and I was really into Persona 5. Like, the day it came out, I went and got Persona 5. That was the reason that I got a PS4, was to play Persona 5. So yeah, Call of Cthulhu, Persona 5, Skies of Arcadia. Is there a campaign you wish you could redo or revisit? Maybe a campaign that didn't work so well that you'd want to retry, or perhaps a game that you loved so much you'd do it again. I don't know, because like the Rods of Calamity game that I talked about on D&D Stories, apparently that GM has done that campaign like 5 or 6 times, and I was just scratching my head like, really? You just play the same game over and over and over with different groups? I can't imagine doing that. I don't think I could ever replay a campaign. Like, it either works or it doesn't. Because if it works and it does really well and it's something that you would do over and over again, then it kind of loses its power. You know, like fear loses its power upon repetition. Well, greatness is much the same. You know, if you hang out with Tony Hawk all day long during his prime, you know, nobody else is going to be impressive to you at a skate park, you know. If I was going to retry a campaign, it would probably be Five Towers. But, you know, in the unique position that I'm in front of 15,000 people, you guys already know the plot. You guys already know what's behind the curtain. You already know what's going on, or what I intended. So I can't really do it unless I go out there to a hobby shop somewhere and find, you know, a group of 4 guys or 4 people that'll sit and do a campaign with a complete stranger, and I don't say anything about my YouTube channel and redo that entire campaign. But I've already talked about it on D&D Stories, and I've already seen that the idea of that campaign was kind of backwards, so I would have to completely redo the whole thing, and by then it's a completely different campaign anyway. So I wouldn't redo a campaign that I loved, because you should only have an experience like that once. You shouldn't try to recapture the magic over and over and over. You should try new things for D&D. And if something bombs so wildly as Five Towers, you should learn your lessons from that sort of thing and move on, and again, try different things. So I guess nothing for either. And that's kind of where the questions end. So that was like, what, 15 questions, a dozen questions? Not bad for an Ask Me Anything. I hope you guys enjoyed that. I've been putting off doing it since I hit 10,000 subscribers, so hopefully that was fun or informative to you guys. And look forward to more Let's Talk Tabletop. Look forward to more Shield Maiden. I know Shield Maiden doesn't get a lot of views. I wish more of you guys would kind of check it out, because I'm working hard on it. It's a lot of fun, I promise. And of course, there's more D&D stories coming. There's like 5 or 6 more episodes of Rob, and then I'm going to come back and we're going to talk about Pathfinder 2nd edition when I get a hold of the books. So there's plenty more stuff coming up. I hope you guys had fun with this Ask Me Anything, and I'll see you guys later. Bye!